Alright, Programming 12, we are going to be adding in some Goombas, or enemies of various kinds. Here's our project, and look, behold, there is a Goomba, and I can crush it from above. But if I land from, beside it, I get hurt and get sent back to the beginning of the game. So the main thing here to understand is how do we create a Goomba, and how do we make it both animate itself. You can see its little feet are, puttering away. The black background doesn't make it easy to see, but I assure you its feet are busily moving as it walks. And then also have some behaviors like bouncing off walls and that kind of stuff. All that's programmed in. So this is going to be a two-part video. In the first part, we're just going to look at how do we set up the map and how do we load in the Goomba. It's not much different than the terrain. We'll have to do a few things to set this up. So let's start with that. So to begin with, I guess we can go over to my map image, and you can see that I've added in a yellow pixel, and I'm going to treat yellow as Goombas. So anywhere when I'm loading my world, if it sees a yellow pixel, it will add a Goomba into the world and set its properties appropriately. That's going to require a Goomba class, or F Goomba, I think I'm going to call it, to stay in sync with all the Fisica classes. I've also made a couple other changes too. You'll notice there's a gray block now. Gray blocks are what I'm going to call walls, and walls are no different than the black stone blocks, except their name is different, and we'll see why that is in a little bit. But those are my changes to the world. If we go and look at the code, there's a couple other changes as well. So, which one is it? I'm going to guess is this one. I guessed correctly. So one thing you'll note is that I'm also going to have a new array list. The array list is going to be for storing all the enemies, and it's separate from terrain. It didn't have to be separate from terrain, to be honest. I could make one mega list that holds both terrain and enemies. So, it's up to you if you'd like to do that. I'm not certain this is necessarily the best way to do it, but I thought I'll make two lists just in case I want to, remove all the enemies really easily, or somehow separate these out. So I made them two separate lists. So I guess if I make a list, I'm going to have to animate the things that are in the list. So that's going to be important. So in my draw function, let's go down to draw. Draw. In my act world function, in addition to having a loop that animates all my terrain, or gets all my fancy terrain to do their fancy things, I have a very similar loop that goes through my enemies list and gets them to act as well. So, not too different. Very similar code there. I guess other than that, it's mostly just loading stuff in our big old loop. So in our load world function, of course, we have our nested loop. We are going and loading all the different things, all these different things. So one of them for me is going to be, hey, if it's a yellow pixel, load a Goomba. So a Goomba is going to look kind of similar to maybe your F bridge or F lavas a little bit. It's a separate class, a F Goomba class, I'm calling it. And in addition to creating it, and the constructor will have a lot of the good juicy things for its properties, I'm also going to add it to the enemies list and add it to the world, so that enemies list will allow us to tell it to act, and adding it to the world means we'll see it show up and it'll start being able to move and interact and collide that way. So that's basically my setup. Basically, pick a color for a Goomba, add some wall pixels in to make it bounce back and forth, and set up your array list. Oops, I guessed the wrong one. Set up your array list so that you can loop through it to tell your enemies to act, and also add a new if statement into your loading world so you can load the correct things. Ooh, I should also mention, sorry, in addition to loading those, I also load walls now. So you can see the black, I load a stone block, but the gray, it's a similar image, but I give it the separate name. And again, that's going to be important for collision detection, to get the Goomba to do the bouncing back and forth thing. So don't forget to do this also. Okay, so there you go. We're going to stop there, and in the next video we'll take a look at the Goomba class itself, F Goomba, and see what kind of interesting things lie in there. Alright, thanks everybody. I had to stop it manually. Hotkeys, man. I don't know why they don't work. Bye.